Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good week this week. I hope you're blessed of God. Here we are, the 1st of November already. And historically, the first Sunday in November is All Saints Sunday. And it's that way here at Friendship Village of Dublin also. It's that time of the year where we set aside a little bit of time for the remembrance of those who have passed away in the last 12 months. And we have had a number of our friends, a number of our family members and loved ones who have died. So we pause and we remember them. We thank God for them. We thank God for all the years that He had given them to us. And for most of them, we spent many, many years with them. So we thank God for that. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about a man in the Bible who died, somebody you're probably going to be familiar with. His name is Lazarus. You know, Lazarus was brother to two sisters. Their names were Mary and Martha. And it was Mary. She was the one who had at one point anointed Jesus's feet with ointment and then wiped his feet with her hair in preparation for his own sacrifice and his burial. Well, Lazarus falls ill, and Mary and Martha, they send a message to Jesus telling him that their brother is sick. When Jesus gets the message, he sends one back to them. He tells them this illness will not lead to death. It's for God's glory. In fact, it's so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. So Jesus stays where he is with the disciples for 2 more days, and then he prepares to go to Bethany. But just before leaving for Bethany, he tells the disciples, our friend Lazarus has died. And that's news that nobody likes to hear. But that's where I want to pick the story up today. It's found in John chapter 11, and we're going to begin in verses 17 through 20. I'd like to read just a little bit of it for you. This is what it says. Now, when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off. And many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house. You know, when I read this, I think to myself that Lazarus must have been on the cusp of death when Martha and Mary first sent word to Jesus that their brother was ill. I think he was gravely ill. So Jesus arrives, and by this time, Lazarus has been in the tomb for 4 days. You know, even with the anointing of the body that they did during Jesus' day, where they applied certain spices and ointments to the body, can you imagine the condition of Lazarus' body after being in the tomb for 4 days? You know, medical experts tell us that within the first 3 days of a person dying, their internal organs begin to decompose. Enzymes begin producing myriad gases, bloating occurs, and the body can double in size. Bacteria produces sulfur-containing compounds, resulting in putrefaction, the stench of death. You know, Martha acknowledges to Jesus that by this time there's going to be a bad odor in the tomb where Lazarus is. Now, I tell you all of that, not to be gross or morbid in any way, but to let you know that Lazarus is dead. He is dead. And Jesus is going to go to the tomb where Lazarus is. Now, our story continues in John 11, verses 21 through 27. This is what it says. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. Well, when I read that, I think to myself, Martha believes that Jesus can do the impossible. She said to him, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. And she also believes that God will give Jesus anything that he asks for. You know, Martha believes in the resurrection. And Martha's hope, that's our hope also. You know, in our desperate hours, we hope Jesus will do the impossible. But he doesn't always do the impossible, does he? The Christian life is a life of faith, trusting God with all the outcomes. The Christian life is a life of faith, trusting the mystery of the way that God works. Now our story continues in John chapter 11, verses 28 through 31, and this is what it says. When she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, the teacher is here and calling for you. And when she heard it, she quickly rose and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. You know what? I find great hope in this passage. When Martha calls Mary, she tells her, the teacher is here. That's my hope. That's our hope. To know that the teacher, that Jesus is here with us in our sorrow and in our loss. The death of a loved one or the loss of a loved one is never the same experience for any two people. The way that I experience the death of someone is different than the way you experience the death of someone that you love. But for both of us, the teacher is here. Remember, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. That experience is the same for us. We both can experience that. Our story continues in John 11, verses 32 through 35. This is what it says. Now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Well, Mary also believes that Jesus can do the impossible, because like her sister, she also says, if you had been here, Lord, my brother would not have died. Not only is the teacher here, he feels Mary's pain. He feels Mary's loss of her brother. Jesus is thoroughly human, with human emotions. He weeps with and perhaps for Mary also. And I have to ask myself, why was Jesus so deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled? Well, we don't know exactly. It could have been part of the human experience of loss. That's the way we are. We experience grief when we lose somebody. We're told in the chapter that Jesus, Mary, and Martha, along with Lazarus, were good friends, and that Jesus loved them. Renowned speaker and motivational speaker Zig Ziglar, he once said, if there were no love, there'd be no grief. Jesus is divine, he's human, and we see his human emotions when he weeps with Mary. Jesus may have wept and may have been troubled because perhaps Mary and Martha didn't know that their brother would be brought back to life by Jesus. So we want to see how the rest of the story goes. John 11, verses 36 and 37. This is what it says. So the Jews said, "See how he loved her." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of a blind man also have kept this man from dying?" This is the question of the ages, isn't it? Why doesn't Jesus do the impossible for us? If we're to read the rest of this chapter and the rest of the story, we know what happens. Jesus goes to the tomb and brings Lazarus back from the dead. All the internal decay, it's repaired. All of the bloating and stench from being dead for 4 days, it's gone. This is our hope also. Jesus had said Lazarus' illness wouldn't lead to death. God would allow it for his own glory so that Jesus would be glorified. And God chooses not to do the impossible sometimes, doesn't he? Our loved ones die sometimes. But the promise of the resurrection is this: God will take our broken, battered, ruined old bodies and make a brand new person out of them, just like he did with Lazarus. Nothing is impossible with God. Sometimes he chooses not to do the impossible for us because he has something greater in his plans, and we don't always know what that is. But we know this: it's for his own glory. Here's the thing, though. The teacher is with us in all of it. And we remember that on this All Saints Sunday. Until the next time, I hope you have a blessed week. God bless you. We'll see you soon.